Imagine this scenario. A hooded figure approaches town on a stormy night, their cloak pulled forward as they make their way to the inn. After making a quick transaction, they retreat to their room and pull their hood back. Underneath, pointed ears reminiscent of an elf, with deep burgundy skin, glowing yellow eyes, and the telltale horns commonly adorning a tiefling. How this came to be is unknown to anyone not in our character's immediate family, and for the protection of those involved, it will stay that way.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike, and today I want to talk about half-breeds in our favorite tabletop games and why they can be some of the most interesting characters in a given story. Characters with interesting lineages can make or break a story depending on how well they're done, and we are going to go over some of the do's and don'ts of the concept. So, strap in, plant a family tree, and let's get ready to concoct a convoluted lineage. So, starting from the beginning, what is a, air quote, half-breed, end quote? In Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, we have two prime examples in the half-elf and the half-orc. But cases exist in a ton of media. So D&D has made it a point to have a prominent parent and one that acts more recessive in their central universe of the Forgotten Realms. We know that a half-elf is, at the very least, half-elven, but the other half doesn't really matter from a mechanical standpoint. The same is true of the half-orc, although there are some lore implications dating back to earlier editions as to why half-orcs behave this way, but that is a bit outside of the scope of what we're talking about today. So outside of D&D, half-breeds are pretty common in media. You see them in anime, manga, television, even the cringiest roleplay forums. They're filled to bursting with characters who possess the traits of multiple races, and this usually carries with it a certain level of being built different. One of the easiest examples to point out is Dante from the Devil May Cry series. Being half demon, half human, he, along with a small collection of other characters in the series, are uniquely qualified to handle the onslaught of demonic invasions that plague the series, while still having the compassion necessary to serve humans in the downtime between games, which, it should be noted, is something the vast majority of demons lack in that universe. Love them or hate them, half-breeds are a really solid way of explaining why our characters are special, and give you some great jumping off points for stories if handled correctly. So, where do we begin? Well, I think it's going to be important to set down a few ground rules before making a character, whether for stories or for role-playing games. First things first, make the character interesting. What you should be doing, in my opinion, is use the character's lineage as a potential plot hook. Don't make the only defining trait of this character their stats. So going back to our earlier example, Dante is cool, he's snarky, he's all around badass and awesome, and he's an interesting character long before we learn what his lineage is or who his parents are. Which, as a side note, his mother is a human woman by the name of Ava, who is largely ignored in the series, and his father is the legendary demon swordsman Sparta. So, in Devil May Cry, demons will actively seek Dante out in an attempt to throw hands with the son of Sparta. And this frequently actually brings Dante into the plot of whatever game he's starring in. His half-demon blood has mechanical effects and justifies some particularly gnarly cutscenes, but Dante himself is a character that drives the series. So let's make a character with all of this in mind. Meet Editha Steelscribe, a half-orc fighter with a surprising amount of knowledge when it comes to history and dungeoneering. She has the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in such historical knowledge, and uses her combat training to escort and defend her fellow archaeologists through what are usually monster-infested and dangerous locales. Second point, these parents are characters too. This one kind of takes a bit of explaining. It's easy to have like a half-dragon, half-cat-girl character and just brush the circumstances of such a union under the rug. You know, oh, my mother had a one-night stand with a man, turns out he was a dragon, and we never saw him again. While this can work, it is so much more interesting for a story to know who the parents are even if the character doesn't know these facts. The parents have a lot of potential, especially if one of the background goals of our character is to find a missing parent or to live up to the name of a powerful or a prominent figure. Using Edita from our example, let's talk about her parents. Her mother, Cora, was an orcish mercenary, and a series of battles gone wrong had her wounded in such a way that prevented her from being able to be deployed on the front lines of any battles the company would face. So she began plying her trade defending some nerds who wanted to look at old destroyed buildings. While there, she met Walter, a human with a passion for long-forgotten civilizations of the land. Now, through a handful of years traveling and studying together, Cora developed something beyond an appreciation for Walter, who loved to learn about Cora, her history, her culture, all of that. They grew closer until they found an opportunity to declare their love for each other in marriage, founding the Steel Scribe line. There are far more plot hooks and higher potential for story in an established background like this. Even if the story or the game never gets to the point of meeting these parents or showing these background characters, knowing who our characters' parents are and what they do for a living goes a long way towards fleshing out your character themselves and also the world. And thirdly, happy people don't adventure. This is more of a general rule of thumb than a hard and fast law of half-breeds specifically, but characters with these traits often have difficulty finding a place where they belong. Even in D&D, half-elves live far longer than humans, while aging far faster than elves. They constantly find themselves either outliving their human friends or having their elven family build emotional walls due to a half-elf's relatively short-lived nature. Being torn between two worlds like this is perfect for a character who would leave their home and family to live a life fraught with danger. Meanwhile, Dan the farmer, with a wife and kids, is way less likely to go halfway across the world. He has a life, people that he loves and who love him, and harvest is right around the corner. So, to use Edita as an example, she began adventuring to find out what happened to her mother. While her parents were delving deep into an ancient ruin, Cora witnessed something cursed, something so cursed that when she attempted to speak of it, the words caught in her throat as if by magic. Something so cursed that when Cora attempted to write down what she saw, she was slain on the spot. Her death devastated Walter and Edita, and the two of them spent the last of Edita's developmental years in a quiet village on the edge of the kingdom. Edita eventually became stir-crazy as she entered adulthood and set forth to discover just what her mother had seen and if it could be destroyed. Anything to prevent others from meeting the same fate as her mother. See? Isn't that a lot more fun, more interesting? So, there we have it. There's a lot of potential for characters like this, and I hope this helped you get the creative juices flowing. Let me know in the comments if you've had any half-breed characters that turned out really well, or if you have tips for other storytellers that I didn't cover here today. If you want to see more, go ahead and like the video and consider joining the Patreon so we know we're on the right path for the content you find interesting or useful. If you want to check us out on Twitch or shout at us on social media, our links will be listed below. Thanks for tuning in, people. Be sure to stay safe, drink water, and never forget that we love you. See you next time.